Hello, my name is Keneilo Mabapa. A number of people have asked me to clarify a comment that the Honorable Judge made in the Singadi versus Zambo case, the double HP case, if you may. He indicated that the handing over of a bride is not a requirement stated in the Recognition of Customary Marriages Act. That there's only 3 requirements that are stated in the Act. My answer to that is that yes, the handover of the bride is not in the Act itself. There is no provision. You can look at that Act, you will not find a provision that says the bride must be handed over to the groom's family. However, the fact that the Act does not make mention of that does not in itself mean that the handover of a bride is not an important requirement in determining the validity of a customary marriage. The Honorable Judge mentioned the case of Southon versus Moropane. That case is almost similar in nature to the one that the court was looking at yesterday. And in that case, the only difference is that in that particular case, the husband was the one who was denying the marriage. Whereas in the double HP case, it is the family of double HP which was denying the existence of the marriage between Lerato and double HP. So that's the only difference. But the court in that instance had to determine whether there was a customary marriage or not. And in order to do that, it had to look into the requirement that says the marriage has to be negotiated, entered into, or celebrated in line with customary law. So to answer that question, the court found itself in a very difficult situation. Because the sentence seems simple enough, but when you actually want to go deeper into it and determine what does it actually mean to say the marriage must be negotiated and entered into or celebrated in terms of customary law, the judge could not make a determination on that. So expert witnesses were called in. 2 expert witnesses were called in, one for the plaintiff and the other one for the defendant. And they gave evidence. Now, it is true that there were areas of conflict between the 2 expert witnesses. However, they agreed on the most essential aspects of what a customary marriage consisted of. They indicated that a customary marriage, there are certain steps that have to be followed in a customary marriage, and I'm going to read them out for you. What they indicated is that they agreed that there would be a messenger, traditionally known as Maditsela, appointed by the groom's family. On an agreed date, the family of the groom will visit the family of the bride. The 2 families will negotiate the lobola to be paid. The family of the groom will pay the lobola or a part of it. After the receipt of the lobola, a beast will be slaughtered to seal the deal, and a portion thereof will be given to the groom's family. On the same day, the family of the bride will select a group to accompany the bride to the groom's family, and that will conclude the marriage. The experts were agreed that this crucial element of handing over the bride by her family to a new family is the most important and final step in the chain of events and happens in the presence of both the bride and groom's families, and in the absence of which no customary union can be seen to have been concluded. The judge, when he actually gave his judgment, he indicated, I will read again, that all the requirements of a customary marriage were observed and included both parties concerned to the marriage. There was a messenger appointed to negotiate between the families. Lobola was negotiated and paid. A sheep was slaughtered, and the plaintiff was handed over to the defendant's family. And of course found that there was a customary marriage. The husband was not pleased and then appealed the case to the Supreme Court of Appeal. In the appeal we now know as Moropane versus Southon. The Supreme Court of Appeal had to answer the question, when does a customary marriage entered into after the commencement of the Recognition of Customary Marriages Act become valid. What the Supreme Court then did was that it considered the evidence before it and found that the two experts that were called at the Southon versus Moropane case had actually played a crucial part, and that they had agreed that the handing over of the bride to her in-laws is the most crucial part of a customary marriage. And it found that, I'm going to read this again, that it is through this symbolic customary practice that the makoti is finally welcomed and integrated into the groom's family, which henceforth becomes her new family. When handing out judgment, the court indicated that the cultural role of handover is essential and deeply embedded in the institution of customary marriage. It could not find any fault with assessment and evaluation of the evidence in the Southon versus Moropane case, and therefore would not interfere with it. That it also found that the evidence of the two expert witnesses were consistent with the existence of a valid customary marriage, therefore dismissing the appeal that was made by the husband and then confirming the decision that was arrived at the Southon versus Moropane case. So, although the judge was correct to say that there is no way in the Recognition of Customary Marriages Act where it says that the handover of the bride should happen for a customary marriage to be valid, the Supreme Court of Appeal, in interpreting the Act itself, did indicate that the handover of a bride is a critical factor in the validity of a customary marriage.